you're here. You deny culpability, no doubt, for the circumstances in which you find yourselves. Salvation can be yours. An offering of blood will set you free. I want to play a game.
Set. This is Michael Faulkner, and it is showtime at the October 24th, 2017 edition of the Weekly Podioplex. Brought to you on the Chronic Rift Network. Starting with the box office reports, it was a weak showing all around this week, and Madea took advantage. At number 10 is Kingsman: The Golden Circle, moving down 3 spots from 7th. At number 9 is American Made, down 3 from 6th. At 8 is new release The Snowman, disappointing with a $3.4 million premiere. Going into the weekend, critics had already savaged this mystery thriller with a 6% rating, and audiences agreed with a D cinema score. There's not much more to say than In 7th, we continue the trend of the current old guard with It, down 3 from 4th. And why not cap the bottom 5 with another drop of 3 spots and The Foreigner, previously in 3rd. The top 5 this week begin with new release Only the Brave, debuting to $6 million. Now that's actually on target for expectations, but the $38 million budget is a huge sticking point, despite the 90% critical approval and A cinema score. In 4th place is Blade Runner 2049, moving down 2 spots from 2nd with $7.4 million and a total of $74.2 million. In 3rd place is last week's winner, Happy Death Day, adding $9.4 million to a total of $40.7 million. And then we move to what replaced those top performers. In 2nd is Geostorm, premiering to $13.7 million. And you know, that's not good against that $120 million budget. And I think the studio knew what was coming since reviews were embargoed until after premiere. Those reviews came in around 12%, while audiences were a bit more favorable with a B-. Still disappointing overall, and that left the door wide open for this week's winner, Tyler Perry's Boo 2: A Madea Halloween, scaring up $21.2 million. And that's the 7th of the 8 films in the series to open over $20 million, although it is well below the first Boo's opening last year. For Tyler Perry's directorial catalog, that's the 8th largest premiere, which is pretty much in the middle of the pack. Audiences gave it an A- cinema score, down from the first Boo's A, but critics were not impressed. They gave it a 7%, lower than The Snowman, way lower than the first Boo, and the lowest of the entire Madea line so far. And at this point, I think I'm done saying Boo for quite a while. To close out the box office report, let's take a look at the past. 5 years ago in 2012, Argo took number 1 with $12.1 million, reaching that point after 3 weeks in release. 10 years ago in 2007, Saw 4 won the weekend with $31.8 million. 20 years ago in 1997, I Know What You Did Last Summer was the winner for a second week with $12.5 million. 30 years ago in 1987, Fatal Attraction took the title for a 6th week with $8 million. And 40 years ago in 1977, Julia won the box office crown for a second week with $3.8 million. The box office premieres for October 27th are going for Halloween scares. This week's headliner is Jigsaw, a horror thriller starring Matt Passmore, Tobin Bell, and Callum Keith Rennie.
10 years ago, the game was played.
Failure to make the right choice could result in death.
What, you came back from the dead? That's impossible.
It's Jigsaw.
Jigsaw, rated R.
R. In theaters October 27th.
A continuation of the Saw series, bodies are turning up around the city, each having met a uniquely gruesome demise. As the investigation proceeds, evidence points to one suspect, John Kramer, the man known as Jigsaw, who has been dead for 10 years. Jigsaw is rated R. Number 2 on our list is Suburbicon, a mystery thriller starring Matt Damon, Julianne Moore, and Oscar Isaac.
These animals killed Mom.
This is a safe place.
It was. Nothing like this ever happened here.
You develop a nose for hanky-panky. Take care of the kid.
Would you like a cup of coffee?
Hi, pal. This town is falling apart.
Suburbicon. Rated R. October 27th.
A home invasion rattles a quiet family town. Suburbicon is rated R. And number 3 on the list is Thank You for Your Service, a war drama starring Haley Bennett, Miles Teller, and Keisha Castle-Hughes.
I thought you were fine. You're lying to me. I found your VA questionnaire. Everything's a lie. You're sick, and I can't do anything if you don't talk to me, Adam.
I have to be sick or I can't get my benefits.
So you don't want to die? It was multiple choice, and you said you wanted to die. Was that a lie? Adam.
I don't know.
A group of U.S. soldiers returning from Iraq struggles to integrate back into family and civilian life while living with the memory of a war that threatens to destroy them long after they left the battlefield. Thank You for Your Service is rated PG-13. There are also 3 titles on this week's limited slate, and you can find those in the show notes. Next up is a look at the home entertainment slate for the week of October 24th, and I'll begin with new releases on DVD and Blu-ray, and that list begins with War for the Planet of the Apes, a science fiction drama starring Andy Serkis, Woody Harrelson, and Steve Zahn. Caesar and his apes are forced into a deadly conflict with an army of humans led by a ruthless colonel. After the apes suffer unimaginable losses, Caesar wrestles with his darker instincts and begins his own mythic quest to avenge his kind. As the journey finally brings them face to face, Caesar and the Colonel are pitted against each other in an epic battle that will determine the fate of both their species and the future of the planet. War for the Planet of the Apes is rated PG-13. Number 2 on the list is Annabelle Creation, a horror film starring Miranda Otto, Philippa Coulthard, and Stephanie Sigmund. Several years after the tragic death of their little girl, a dollmaker and his wife welcome a nun and several girls from a shuttered orphanage into their home, soon becoming the target of the dollmaker's possessed creation, Annabelle. Annabelle Creation is rated R. And number 3 is The Emoji Movie, an animated comedy starring T.J. Miller, Anna Faris, and James Corden. 3 emojis embark on an epic adventure through a smartphone to save their world from deletion. This is the one where Patrick Stewart plays Poop. The Emoji Movie is rated PG. Swinging by new releases on digital video, I have one title to share, and that one is Atomic Blonde, an action mystery film starring Charlize Theron, James McAvoy, and John Goodman. The crown jewel of Her Majesty's Secret Intelligence Service, Agent Lorraine Boughton, is equal parts spycraft, sensuality, and savagery, willing to deploy any of her skills to stay alive on her impossible mission. Sent alone into Berlin to deliver a priceless dossier out of the destabilized city, she partners with embedded station chief David Percival to navigate her way through the deadliest game of spies. Atomic Blonde is rated R. Moving right along to TV on DVD and Blu-ray, it's a short slate. It begins with Teen Wolf, Season 6, Part 2 from 2017, and the complete series, spanning 2011 to 2017, starring Tyler Posey, Holland Roden, and Dylan O'Brien. Scott was just a regular guy until one bite changed his life forever, and now he struggles to understand who he is and what he might become. Is he more wolf than human, or is it the other way around? Whichever it is, it's not going to be easy. Scott will try to control his urges, but mostly he's scared that his urges will end up controlling him. Will the bite end up being a gift, or will it end up being a curse? This week also sees the release of Saving Hope Season 5 from 2017, starring Erica Durance. There wasn't very much available on this release, but the show is a supernatural medical drama centered on the lives of the doctors and nurses at Hope Zion Hospital. Season 5 is the final season of the show, which of course freed up Erica Durance to move to Supergirl this year. I'll wrap up the home entertainment slate with Blu-rays from the past, and this week I bring two titles. The first is The Presidio, a crime mystery from 1988 starring Sean Connery, Mark Harmon, and Meg Ryan. A series of cross-jurisdictional murders forces a San Francisco police detective and his former Army commander to overcome their differences and work together. The biggest difference of all? The cop is dating the commander's daughter. The Presidio is rated R. The other title is Marathon Man, a psychological crime thriller from 1976 starring Dustin Hoffman, Sir Laurence Olivier, and Roy Scheider. In New York City, the brother of infamous Nazi war criminal Dr. Christian Zell, the White Angel of Auschwitz, dies in a fiery car accident. Zell is forced out of hiding in South America to retrieve valuables safeguarded by his late brother, but first, he must be certain he is not in danger. The question always on his mind, is it safe? Marathon Man is rated R. After this brief break for about a shameless podcast cross-promotion, the Weekly Podioplex will continue.
The Flash Pulp Podcast. 3 to 10 minutes of fiction brought to you thrice weekly. Now it's three apocalypses in one! Yeah! Suffering from tough, stuck-on humans? Well, 20 hellish hours of suffocation in the all-encompassing web of Karwik the Spider God will get them right out. Too many brains lying around? The ravenous mouths surrounding zombie-fighting Ruby will quickly clean those up. Nosy neighbors? Infect them with the murder plague, and watch as they dissolve into paranoid maniacs bent on the preemptive assassination of their friends and family. Why stop at one end of the world when you can have all three? You can find them all at flashpulp.com or search for them on iTunes.
Welcome back to the Weekly Podioplex. I'm Denise with your Quick Flicks. Up first, filmmaker James Toback accused of sexual harassment by over 30 women. I mean, I really got nothing here, guys, except exasperation. Writer-director James Toback has been accused of sexual harassment by almost 40 women. Toback has been writing and directing movies since the 70s, making this so super gross. Thanks be to the women who came forward with the Harvey Weinstein accusations, because without them, Toback would still be making movies and harassing women. No, I'm not going to talk about the man's career, because personally, it's not about his career. It's about the 38 women who have come forward with the accusations to Los Angeles Times, and 31 of them going on the record with those accusations. The women were all very young, some of them as young as 18 or 19, when the incidents happened. They said that Toback would brag about his film credits and offer to help them with their own acting or writing careers. Once he got them alone, though alone could mean a park bench in a public park, he would ask them incredibly personal questions and touch them inappropriately. Because of course this isn't the first time Toback has been called out for sexual harassment. Back in '89, an article in Spy magazine described Toback's behavior toward women. The behavior in the article matches the stories from the women coming forward today. The women admit that they did not report him in the past, either to protect their careers or out of fear of Toback. Some of the women allege that he threatened them by telling outlandish and frightening stories, such as how he once murdered someone with a pencil. The Harvey Weinstein scandal encouraged these women to come forward. Many of them relive their own experiences. And because Hollywood isn't already a morass of bad ethical choices and shady morals, Stranger Things star's agent has been fired amidst sexual assault allegations. Dude. Stranger Things star Finn Wolfhard has fired his agent Tyler Grasham from APA Talent Agency after allegations of sexual assault. Seriously, thanks be to the women who came forward with Harvey Weinstein. Without them, this probably wouldn't have happened. Whereas previous accusations against other Hollywood directors, producers, and actors have often yielded few results, this time something is being done. According to Variety, talent agent Tyler Grasham has been fired from APA after an accusation of him sexually assaulting a teenager was made public. Previous to being fired, Grasham had represented teenage actor Finn Wolfhard, but the young actor severed his ties with Grasham earlier today, as did Descendants star Cameron Boyce. Filmmaker and actor Blaise Godby Lipman is the one who accused Grasham. On Monday, Lipman posted his account of having been sexually assaulted as a teenager as a part of the hashtag #MeToo campaign to bring awareness of how frequent sexual harassment and assault truly are. In his initial post, he did not name the person who assaulted him, but then Grasham sent him a poke on Facebook after more than a decade without correspondence. Lipman, unsure whether it was a threat to keep silent or an acknowledgement of what happened to him, decided to name Grasham. The following day, he did. Within a few days, Wolfhard left APA, and Grasham, whose client list has mostly been child actors like Wolfhard and like Lipman was a decade ago, has been fired. It's unknown if more accusers will come forward or if legal action of any kind will be taken against him. It isn't just women, guys. The problem is pervasive, it's horrible, and it really just needs to stop. Women and plenty of men have been shouting into the void for years. It's time for the rest of the population to shut up, listen, believe, and act accordingly. Men, you have the power to police yourselves and each other. You've been protecting your own interests for too long. Maybe now is the time to put that power to good use and to change rape culture. Teach your boys to respect girls. Teach them that no really does mean no, and that they are not entitled to a woman's time, effort, or sex. Girls, the same goes for you. Yes, boys can be sexually assaulted and even raped. We are not all innocent, and too many of us are complicit. Stop rape culture. Treat your fellow human beings like the people they are. A single-celled organism is smarter, you guys. Act like a product of millions of years of evolution, not like you just came out of the damn primordial ooze. In other news, ThinkGeek has a Marvel clothing line and my bank account is basically empty now. The great thing is, the Penn Square Mall out in Oklahoma City has a ThinkGeek store and I'm going back home for Christmas, so yeah, no more savings account. Wearing your favorite fandom on a shirt is nothing new, but recently more and more brands have strived to create different kinds of geek wear. Geek isn't just for men anymore either. There are dresses and skirts and hats, jewelry, handbags, and even makeup that fans can purchase to show off their love. I nerd out at work, no lie. I purposely shop for nerd clothes that I can wear and still look professional at the workplace. ThinkGeek's new line of clothing called Gear Up is full of wearable, comfortable looks that blend easily into your current wardrobe. It was created in partnership with Marvel and another well-known geek brand, Mighty Fine. There are a number of items from Marvel's most recent films, including Guardians of the Galaxy and Spider-Man, as well as the upcoming Thor and Avengers Infinity War. The prices range from $19.99 for some of the shirts to $69.99 for the Avengers Army jacket. Also, they have Star Trek line that is just so fabulous. There's a blazer I'm definitely getting with my credit card reward points because I absolutely am a nerd and have absolutely zero shame whatsoever. The Gear Up line has fashion for both men and women. The clothes go up to 3XL and are freaking fantastic. So go forth and shop, fellow nerds. Next, World War Z 2 won't be an excuse to make a movie. Well, that's reassuring. I was starting to wonder. David Fincher says his involvement with forthcoming sequel World War Z 2 is entirely dependent on the quality of the script. The original World War Z weathered a famously troubled production where star Brad Pitt allegedly clashed with director Mark Foster, and filming delays led to costly budget overruns. Needless to say, people were stunned when David Fincher officially signed on to helm the sequel in June 2017. Talk of the sequel has been quiet since then. However, in a new interview with the Empire podcast, Fincher briefly talked on the sequel's status. When answering a question about his current projects, the director said, "I worked on a show for HBO that didn't see the light of day and at the same time was doing Mindhunter, and I've been working for about a year now with Dennis Kelly on World War Z. We're hoping to get a piece of material that's a reason to make a movie, not an excuse to make a movie." In a surprising twist, it sounds like Fincher won't make the movie until it has an actual story to it. Go figure. Time will tell if that proves to be the case or the sequel winds up being another cash grab. And finally, Stephen King says Dark Tower TV series will be a complete reboot. You know, I never could get into the Dark Tower books. I stopped at the 4th one because of boredom. Now, if you don't already know or haven't read the books, the Dark Tower series revolves around the last gunslinger's quest to reach the mystical tower and a villainous man in black. There's a lot of metaphor here, and I've heard the ending to the whole series is just the worst. Anyway, Stephen King shed some light on the planned series in an interview with Vulture, where he also gave his thoughts on why the film didn't entirely work for audiences. He said, "The major challenge was to do a film based on a series of books that's really long, about 3,000 pages. The other part of it was the decision to do a PG-13 feature adaptation of books that are extremely violent and deal with violent behavior in a fairly graphic way. That was something that had to be overcome, though I've got to say, I thought screenwriter Akiva Goldsman did a terrific job in taking the central part of the book and turning it into what I thought was a pretty good movie. The TV series they're developing now, we'll see what happens with that. It would be like a complete reboot, so we'll just have to see." While King initially came out in support of the movie prior to its release, he has since confessed the PG-13 rating was probably a mistake. Honestly, a 2-hour Dark Tower movie was probably a mistake. I still can't figure out why they just didn't go directly to TV with it and give it the Game of Thrones treatment. Surely that's the only way to treat Stephen King's magnum opus. Am I wrong? And that's it for this week's Quick Flicks. I'll see you guys next time on the Weekly Podioplex.
Thank you, Denise. And here we are once again at the end of a new edition of the Weekly Podioplex. If you want to discuss anything you heard on this week's edition, we would love to hear from you. You can surf on over to the Chronic Rift homepage at chronicrift.com and leave an audio message right there on the website using your microphone. You can also write an email or send an MP3 to weeklypodioplex@gmail.com. If 140 or 280 or whatever it is Twitter allows nowadays is more your thing, you can still tweet us on Twitter. The Chronic Rift is chronic_rift. The Weekly Podioplex is Weekly Podioplex. Denise is Riley, James, Keith, and I am Womprat99, like the creature Luke with Bullseye in his T16 in Beggar's Canyon. You can give the Chronic Rift a thumbs up on Stitcher Radio, leave us a review on iTunes, and you can find the Weekly Podioplex and the Chronic Rift on Facebook. The usual disclaimer applies, of course, if you leave us feedback. You may hear your words on a future edition of the Weekly Podioplex. Take a moment, stop on by, and see what other shows the Chronic Rift Network has to offer. We have the Batcave podcast, the OSI Files podcast, the G2V podcast, Generations Geek, presenting the transcription feature, the Dan and Travis Show, the Sci-Fi Diner podcast, Doctor Who and Mr. Drew, the Home Game Show version podcast, and so much more. If you have a Roku player, it's essentially a time machine. You can find us there on the Chronic Rift's Roku channel, which houses episodes of the Chronic Rift's adventures in the 1990s when it was a public access television show on the New York City airwaves. If you don't have a Roku player, you can also find those on YouTube. Hey, check us out and find the culture in pop culture. If you're interested in more of my adventures, you can take a quick trip to my blog, Creative Criticality, where I'm watching every episode of Doctor Who for the first time from the very beginning of the franchise and reviewing those tales in the Timestamps Project. I took this week off after finishing off the 20th season, so next week begins Season 21, the final season with the 5th Doctor. And those reviews can be found at creativecriticality.wordpress.com, and you can also find Creative Criticality on Facebook. Denise can also be found on the internet at Accessories Not Included, where she talks about her writing, reviews books, and offers her services as a cover designer. Check her out at accessoriesnotincluded.com. If you decide to pick up any of this week's new releases, why not do it through our Amazon store? You get the newest entertainment, Amazon's low prices and high-quality service, and each purchase you make at that store supports the Chronic Rift Network. Your support helps keep us on the air, and we appreciate your consideration. Look for the links to our best bets and the network store in our show notes, or click the Amazon box on the website. The Weekly Podioplex is a Lucky Shot production and is produced by John S. Drew. On behalf of Denise and John, this is Michael Faulkner. Thanks for listening. Until next time, there are adventures and drama, comedy and action, worlds to explore in the depths of film. If I don't talk to you before then, have a happy and safe Halloween, and I'll see you at the theater.